Well, first, I just want to explain to you that one of the titles I like to use is that I'm a reflective practitioner. So I found the thesis presentation very interesting, and I saw all the questions were very practical. So I'm going to try to make my presentation also very practical. At the same time, I will come up maybe with certain concepts, because you have to reflect. And I think it's very important to understand that all these theories, these standards and all that are useful. They are like a map. And the idea is, yes, you have to be in practice, but my wife used to teach at university, and she used to say that theory serves to put right side up what you do upside down in real life. And the idea is, imagine yourself in front of a 5,000-piece puzzle, and I take the box, and I throw the pieces on the floor, and this is the situation you're in at the moment, all of you. And then I hold a picture for you, and I say, this is what you have to finish with. So the concepts of program management, the concepts of project management and all that, and what Alexandre talked about and all that, the standards, they are ways to help you get your puzzle built. One thing that Frank talked about earlier was this idea that how do you do this? And things take time. Things take a bit of time. And I think Thies mentioned it also, that things take a bit of time. They are not done overnight. So what I'm going to do this afternoon is to present you with 3 case studies. In fact, I've added a 4th one last minute. And to explain to you what is done in other companies. We also talked about benchmarking earlier, and one of the things about benchmarking is that you should not only benchmark. Frank mentioned that you have to benchmark, go out and look at other companies, what they do and things like that, but it's not only in your own industry. You can benchmark in different industries. For example, we're in the World Cup today. Football teams like Real Madrid, like Manchester United, they are brands. They are the same as Cartier or others. They have a brand, they have a name. People want to buy them because they are valuable in terms of brand. And so you can go out and look at them and what they do. If we talk, somebody mentioned security earlier. Well, banking is an industry that has very high levels of security. You talk also about doing products of high quality. I'm going to talk about pharmaceutical organizations. Their quality process is very important, because if they fail the FDA approval, they can lose millions of dollars for every day they're not on the market. So these are things you have to go out, yes, but look at the broader spectrum of things. Don't just focus on your own industry. Try to look at different things. So I'm going to start with, is it on? Yes, it's on. Okay. Giving you a little bit of the agenda. We're going to talk about the strategic alignment of projects, and I'm going to talk to you about a program that I did for a air traffic management body of Europe, Eurocontrol. And basically, it was exactly the type of program you have described earlier, which was what Thies has called an emergent program, what I've called an ad hoc program, basically where the projects exist before the program, and then you decide to bring these projects together to create a program. And how do you align these programs with the strategy of the organization? The second one is how to optimize organizational resources. And it was also about a program. It was for Pfizer at the time, who invented at that time, got out on the market a little blue pill, and suddenly they started to grow very fast, obviously no pun intended, but needed to grow their headquarters, needed to hire new people and all that, and had all these projects started because they had money available and they wanted to spend it, IT and things like that. How did they group them, and how did they manage to optimize their use of resources? Because there was a potential for a lot of loss of resources, redundancies, and things like that. And the third one is the organizational change to enhance agility. And for that, I'm going to use the example of National Australia Bank, for whom I worked in Melbourne, and they, in fact, I worked for the Technology Operations Department, a group of 500 people, who wanted to transform into a project-based organization because they wanted to become more agile. Their problem was they were a more traditional bank, and they had been very successful in the 70s and 80s, and when the crash hit in the mid-80s, because they were traditional and they relied on their core values, they managed to be successful where their more forward-looking, innovative banks, their competitors, were not as successful. So they said, we're good. We have to continue doing like that. And there, in fact, we learned today that in the kind of world we live in, that needs continual transformation, the long-term strategy, relying on the core values that have brought you here today from 50 years ago, may not be the best solution. We have to look at competitive advantage, not in terms of long-term competitive advantage, but as a series of transient competitive advantage, which means temporary competitive advantages, which will in fact need to be continually renewed. So it's when you're at the top of your game and you're at your best that it's time to invest in the next thing. And that's what the people from CERN told you also. They're already thinking of what's going to happen in 35 years. Okay. So these are the topics I'm going to cover. I'm going to try to explain to you a little bit what we did in practical terms in all of these areas.